Goes back to mid. We've seen Radahn fall quite a few times to this thing.
Muchos metros.
Dun sa mga may-ari ng shop na katulad natin. March 23, may nagpunta sa atin, nagpa-PMS, nagpa-CBT cleaning. May iba pang ginawa sa kanya. Yung mga parts na pinalitan, yung mga parts din na hindi napalitan. Yan ang belt niya. Dahil na nakapos na siya sa budget. Pero in-advise natin siya na next PMS niya, pagtan na dapat. Ito nga, bumalik siya araw ng Martes. April 1, medyo iba dating niya dyan. Nagalit kagad siya. Kinumpronta niya kagad itong anak ko. Sa kanya daw nagpalit daw siya ng belt. Ba't daw di namin inilagay? Time na yan, lumabas na rin ako. Pinakalma ko siya kasi iba dating niya. Medyo nanggigigil na talaga siya. Si Miss naman pumasok sa loob ng opisina, kinuha yung record niya. At yun, advice nga dun sa mga may motor shop na i-record kada gawa. Pinagpipilitan niya na pinalitan daw, na binayaran daw niya yung belt. Nagbigay kami ng resibo sa kanya, kaso hindi niya daw dala yung resibo. Sa record namin talagang wala siyang pinalitan o binayaran na belt. Yung iba na rin dating ko, kaya lumayo ako sa kanya. Kasi talaga dating niya at yung approach niya sa amin talagang nanggigigil siya. Hindi naman sa lahat ng bagay customer is always right. Pwede naman siyang magsalita ng mahinahon na hindi kami sisigawan na nanduduro pa. Yan, yung time na yan, unti-unti na siya naliliwanagan. Nahanap namin yung pinaka-resibo niya, wala naman siyang maibigay. Tapon o nakalimutan daw niya. Yung naka-logbook naman sa amin, base lang dun sa resibo niya. Yun, nalito lang siguro si customer. Time na yan, mahinahon na siya. Kaya mabuti na lang na-record namin yung mga ginawa sa kanya, tsaka yung mga hindi napalitan na pyesa na dapat palitan na. Doon sa mga customer, huwag kayong magtataka kung bakit namin kinukuha yung plate number nyo, tsaka yung odometer, pati cellphone. Yung cellphone, okay lang na hindi nyo ibigay kasi sa inyo yun. Pero yung odometer,
Finally, the angle is there for Marcel. Finally, he realizes what's going on.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Listen to the car. Oh, 2 for 2. I think the car gave away the position. He might have been able to sneak under the radar.
Finally, the angle is there for Marcel.
The soldier pulled the pin on a grenade and tossed it into the air, striking the tail wing of a German aircraft. The Germans immediately fired back, killing him in the shell crater. To get wounded and leave the battlefield, the soldier paid with his life. During World War I, the French army had an unwritten rule. Any soldier who lost combat ability could be discharged and sent home. So many soldiers resorted to self-injury to escape duty. The bold ones would grab hot gun barrels, burning their palms until the flesh sizzled and blurred. The timid ones helped each other, pointing guns at each other's hands and pulling the triggers simultaneously. But they all ended up in military court. Medical exams proved their wounds were intentional, and they were charged with self-mutilation. The punishment for desertion was being sent to the center of the battlefield. The first deserter was a welder. After witnessing a teammate kill a German boy, he realized war was just a game for politicians, and poor kids were just pawns doomed to be sacrifices. He gave speeches urging his comrades not to fight for politicians and was charged with undermining morale. The military court labeled him a deserter and sent him to the battlefield. He sang out of fear and was shot dead by the Germans. The second was a coward who had been jailed pre-war for a woman slashing his brother's butt. Drafted into the war, he was sent to the front and became a deserter after urinating in an officer's hat. He waved a white flag and shouted for surrender. A veteran couldn't stand it, raised his rifle and shot him. The last was a young sailor turned soldier. On his first charge, he saw a comrade blown to pieces and became terrified of death. He feared gas and the wind and friendly fire. To escape duty, he tried to self-injure. He lit a cigarette, held it between his fingers, and stuck his hand out of the trench. A German sniper spotted him and shot through his palm. Thinking he'd avoid service, he was instead court-martialed and declared a deserter. Sent to the battlefield center, he lost his fear of death and carved his fiance's name into a dead tree. But a German aircraft spotted him and a machine gunner opened fire. He was hit in the abdomen, fell, and was saved by a deserter farmer. The farmer carried him out, and in the end, only the two survived among 5 deserters. Soon after, World War I ended, and the two made it home alive. The soldier...
This?
Dropping a deuce.
This was a human hamburger production line where living beings were sealed in preservation bags to marinate. Once the ingredients were thoroughly seasoned, the deranged manager would place them on a conveyor belt leading straight into a meat grinder. The resulting meat paste was compressed into burger patties. After being prepared by 5-star chefs, customers devoured these coveted delicacies. The burgers received unanimous praise for their unique flavor. To ensure a constant supply of ingredients, the Twisted Manager targeted illegal immigrants. Batches of undocumented people were delivered to a private nursing home. They quickly sensed something was wrong. One day, Jack was reading a story to an elderly woman who trembled as she warned him, "Run away, or you'll end up like me."
I'm way more faster than a Formula One car. I broke 3 world records in only one jump. 550 kilometers per hour.
1,470 feet.
You need to be really, really high above. I jumped higher than a commercial. With a wingsuit with no engine power.
You've got the jet stream.
Join.
This is a street scam game that tricks your eyes. If you don't know the secret, no matter how you bet, you'll never win because the performer controls everything. Here's how it works. The performer places the stick in the middle of the rope and then wraps the rope around it like this. In a normal setup, they hold both ends of the rope and pull. This always makes the rope loop around the stick, 100% guaranteed. So how does the guy in the video escape? Well, there's a clever trick. Before wrapping, one end must be longer than the other, like this. Then, the stick goes in the middle and the wrapping looks the same as before. The secret is in the final move. Look closely. While covering with their hands, the short end stays still, but the long end loops around once more. This small switch changes everything. Now when they pull, the stick escapes instead of getting caught. This is a street
It's not very sporting, man. At least give the chickens a chance to shoot back. Hey, man, I'm just saying. If I'm gonna kill a defenseless animal, I'm gonna honor its sacrifice by grilling it into some tasty barbecue. What I'm not gonna do is torture it just to prove I can't hit anything further away than my own pecker.
What is a real junkyard dog?
Hey, someone needs to kick that shit. Someone needs to kick that shit. Let's go, Simon! Let's go! Woo! Let's go!
Once upon a time, there was a giant man who worked for God. Every day he followed the same routine. Wake up in the morning, have breakfast, and then set out to beautify and take care of the earth. One morning as he began his breakfast, his eyes fell on the calendar, and he suddenly remembered that today, God himself was going to come and inspect his work. Thinking this, he immediately picked up his toolbox filled with tools and got to work. First, he took a hammer and chisel and carved a tall mountain to make it look even more beautiful. Then he sprinkled water over Mount Everest to make it look fresh and radiant. After that, he headed toward a dense forest and used a sickle to clear away unnecessary bushes, making it clean and tidy. Finally, he reached Lake Victoria and started pouring water into it slowly and carefully. While he was doing all this, some tribal people gathered below. It was their first time seeing such a gigantic man. Due to his enormous height, they misunderstood and thought he was urinating into the lake. This made them angry, but when the man smiled and explained to them that he was a servant of God and was working to beautify the earth, they understood everything and began to respect him, bowing their heads. In this way, a misunderstanding turned into respect through kindness and understanding. Once upon
This is me with Vietnam's most dangerous gang in Saigon.
Are you ever scared of dying?
Never. Death means nothing to me.
And for the next 24 hours, I've been given exclusive access behind the scenes into their murky, criminal underworld.
I've multiple people, and I've spent most of my life in prison.
To understand their shady businesses and their deadly way of lifestyle.
Things can happen at any moment. You can get hostage here.
This will be a crazy 24 hours, and the timer starts right now. So I'm on my way to visit one of the most dangerous former...
In order to survive, the man picked up a steel nail and hammered it into his leg, since he had been injected with poison and needed to stay excited to keep his heart beating. His heart began to fail. He went to the hospital to look for adrenaline. He asked the nurse to give him the medicine, but the nurse refused since the medicine was under control. He was very angry. A person nearby told him that nasal spray was also useful. He took a few bottles of nasal spray and left. However, the redness on his neck made the nurse suspicious, and she quietly called the police. When he was still in the hospital, the police arrived. He had to hide in a ward. The police searched the room but found nothing and then left. He came out of a wardrobe, changed into a hospital gown, and continued to look for the medicine. The police spotted him, and he fled quickly. He saw a critically ill patient and threatened the doctor with a gun to hand over the adrenaline. The doctor rummaged through the cabinet. At this time, he felt his heart failing again. The doctor found the medicine. He handed the defibrillator to the doctor and threatened the doctor to use the defibrillator on him. The doctor hesitantly put the defibrillator on him. He was sent flying into the elevator. In the elevator, he pointed a gun at the police. The elevator door closed, and he was safe for the moment. He felt his heart failing again, so he injected the whole bottle of medicine into his body. The medicine took effect immediately, and he rushed out of the hospital and started running. When he saw a police motorcycle, he crept closer while hiding behind a car. He snatched the policeman's gun, then threw the gun far away.
What the fuck? Yawa. The fuck? Apa yung unungan mo? May bad, may bad.
Potentially dangerous. They're running into space held by Firefly. No rocket torpedoes come swinging on by. What is going on?
Nothing.
Fuck.
The movie begins in Paris, where our assassin, known by the nickname the Paris Killer, he's famous for his flawless record, never making a mistake. Upon taking on a new assignment, he rents an office directly across from a hotel, an ideal vantage point to observe the area and track his potential target. The killer adheres to a strict set of principles, living so meticulously that he never breaks the law. He knows that even the smallest mistake could reveal his identity and ruin his legendary reputation. The killer was exceptionally cautious, leaving no trace of fingerprints or DNA, fully aware that even the smallest mistake could lead to his capture. After 5 days of quietly surveilling his target with no significant developments, he contacted his handler, ready to pull back. But the handler insisted he wait just a little longer. Reluctantly, he agreed to extend his watch for another 2 days.
That night, as he quietly prepared his weapons, he suddenly heard footsteps approaching. Instantly alert, he braced himself for action, only to find it was a courier. Without a word, the messenger placed an envelope on the floor and quickly left. In the dead of night, he was jolted awake, immediately noticing movement in the top floor room. Recognizing that his target had arrived, he quickly readied his rifle and took position for the perfect shot. With surgical precision, he calculated every detail, the angle, wind speed, and every other variable that could affect the bullet's path. It seemed everything was aligned for a flawless execution. But when he fired, the shot missed its mark, striking the woman who was with the target instead. Realizing things had spiraled out of control, he swiftly erased all evidence of his presence and made a hasty escape. Heading straight for the airport, he left irreparable chaos in his wake. In a hurry to leave the office building, he carefully erased every trace that could link him to the scene. As he left Paris behind, the killer contacted his handler to report the mission's failure. The handler cautioned him about potential repercussions, but the killer remained unfazed. Coldly, he reassured them that he would take care of the situation soon. However, as he surveyed his surroundings, he noticed a suspicious figure nearby. His instincts told him this person could be a mercenary sent to eliminate him. The looming sense of danger immediately put him on high alert, ready to respond to any situation that might unfold. The killer rented a hotel room near the airport, preparing to confront the uninvited guest. To ensure his safety, he set up a simple yet effective alarm system, a glass on the doorknob and a metal plate at the base of the door to detect any movement. Armed with a knife, he sat in tense silence, waiting. By midnight, he realized his mistake. The stranger was nothing more than an innocent traveler. The following morning, the killer checked out of the hotel and flew to a safe house in the Dominican Republic. Upon arrival, he noticed cigarette butts and unfamiliar footprints, unmistakable signs that someone had been there before him. The moment the killer realized someone had broken in, he armed himself and slipped inside, moving like a shadow. The house was a battlefield furniture, overturned, shattered dishes strewn across the floor, and streaks of blood staining the walls. A chilling sense of dread crept over him. Then came the call that made his blood run cold. His girlfriend was at the